How we doing, everybody? We are back for episode 12 now of Banter from the Bench podcast. Just to highlight a little bit of what we're going to talk about today, we're going to dive into the MLB Trade Deadline Recap, talk about some moves that we noticed, obviously some of the bigger ones we'll highlight. We're going to dive into the Olympics, so this isn't something we'll get to talk about a whole lot. Definitely want to make sure we set some time aside to talk about what's happening with Team USA across the board. And we've got training camp going on, and as of tomorrow, the Hall of Fame game kicks off. So we have our first football game of the year tomorrow. So as always, plenty to dive into. We will make sure to cover just about everything. So let's get ready to roll in.
Soundstripe.
Before we get started here, I just got to say, Kevin, we made it. We finally made it. We are at the point now where we will have football every week until the end of time. What a feeling. I know Tomorrow is just a Hall of Fame game, and the Bears are playing in it, so we'll get into it, but I feel like tomorrow's a little bit of like Christmas Day. For me, I know you love the real thing, but for me... This is my Christmas.
Honestly, man, with the way the White Sox season's been going, I think every White Sox fan is ready to turn the page and start watching a different team. So I'm excited myself, even if it's just training camp and some backups playing in the Hall of Fame game tomorrow. Sign me up. We've got football, baby.
Yes, sir. But before we talk about that, we got a lot more stuff to cover, like you were mentioning, and perhaps the most news of the week since we last recorded was the MLB trade deadline has passed. It passed. It is Wednesday night when we're recording this. It passed yesterday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, so Tuesday. And that was something. There were a lot of trades.
Busy.
Overall thoughts for me, not quite as many bigger trades than I maybe expected, but still a lot of trades. I think if it weren't for the Marlins and the Rays, it maybe would have been a little bit more quiet. It seemed like both those teams traded half their roster. But overall, I mean, just a really exciting day and a lot of fun to keep up with. I know I was kind of glued to my phone pretty much like Monday and Tuesday, just trying to see what was going on. And yeah, it was fun. What were your kind of overall thoughts on the trade deadline?
Yeah, so I actually heard something today, which kind of sums up the trade deadline this year. Is a lot of smaller moves. Jack Flaherty is probably the biggest move. You got Jazz Chisholm too, moving to the Yankees. But something I found out today actually is 0 top 100 prospects were traded this year in this year's deadline, which is really interesting because usually you see teams who are willing to depart, even if it's a top 100 prospect. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It just goes to speak to the level of trades that we saw in this year's deadline. But, hey, there was definitely a lot of action, which I appreciate. I thought it was fun to keep up to date with everything. The Sox specifically we'll dive into later on in the episode. But do you want to talk about some of the first couple trades that you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, so to expand on your point a little bit for those listening, that's baseball. According to Baseball America's prospect list, there were no top 100 prospects traded. Baseball America does really good work. They're definitely a website and publication where you can use their judgment pretty well in terms of what to expect from prospects and stuff. Now there are other websites like Fangraphs, MLB Pipeline, that are out there too, that maybe some guys they view as top 100 prospects were moved, but according to Baseball America, at least there wasn't one, which that was an interesting point too, that I did see that floating around. But kind of before we start looking at some trades here, I talked about two teams that sold a lot. One team I was I was kind of surprised that made as many moves as they did. That I want to touch on before we get into specifics was the Royals. Now, I know they're in a wild card hunt right now, and they're having a really good year. And I probably think they're maybe a year ahead of schedule. And I think if the season ended and they didn't make the playoffs, any Royals fan or member of that front office would probably say that's a successful season for them. But they didn't do anything sexy or splashy, but they added a lot of depth, which I thought was pretty interesting. I just didn't think they'd be that aggressive right now, but maybe they just look at the AL Central being wide open and saying like, hey, we're not just looking at wild card here. Like, we got a shot at this division. So that was just one team that kind of really stood out to me. That was a little bit of a surprise. I don't know if you had any teams that caught you off guard or surprises that you had. Otherwise, we can start looking at trades here.
Yeah, I think the same team, honestly. I think it was interesting the Royals made a move. I thought it was interesting the move that the Cubs made. I mean, I get it. It's a move for the future, but, for a team that the front office kind of like under their breath was saying that they were going to be sellers, I thought their trade was kind of interesting. I like it for them personally, I will say. I think that they ended up on the better end of the trade, but and when I say the trade, I mean Isaac Paredes, but because they made another one during the trade deadline. But yeah, I thought theirs was interesting.
Yeah, so for those who might not be aware, the Cubs did trade I think
Christopher Morel.
No, yeah, yep, I got it right here. Christopher Morel and 2 prospects for Isaac Paredes. And I don't know if anyone's kept up with what's been happening since then, but I mean, maybe we've talked about it on this podcast before. I know I certainly have said it for years that if the Rays call to make a trade with you, no matter how lopsided it seems, hang up and don't make the trade. Well, Christopher Morel, since going over to the Rays, has 2 home runs in 2 games. So yeah. I don't know what Paredes has done. I know he was in the lineup, I think today or yesterday. But I was just laughing at that. I saw he homered the first game, and then when he did it again today, I was like, gosh, that must suck to be a Cubs fan and see that. But
I want to say Paredes went 0 for 3 or 0 for 4 in his first game with the Cubs. So that just hurts even more. But again, this is a long-term play, so we'll see what this looks like 2 years from now.
Yeah, but kind of diving into some of the events that happened, the Diamondbacks and the Marlins kind of kicked things off on July 25th when the D-backs got A.J. Puk, a left-handed relief pitcher from the Marlins, for a prospect named Davinson De Los Santos, and then an outfielder, Andrew Pintar. De Los Santos is a big power bat. Miami's farm was lacking a lot of that from what I understand. I don't really know much of their farm. But A.J. Puk's a guy that he's been around the MLB for quite a bit. Former high first-round pick, former starting pitcher turned reliever, and has found some success there with Miami this year, and as a result is now going to get to play more meaningful baseball. So that was kind of the trade that really kicked things off. But, the first big trade happened one day later, late at night, a late night bomb here, where the Mariners, they got Randy Arozarena, also from the Rays, for outfielder Aiden Smith, right-handed pitcher Brody Hopkins, and a player to be named later. So obviously this is one of the bigger moves that happened during this trade deadline. Spoiler alert if people don't really know what happened, but what were your thoughts on this move, Kev?
I loved this for the Mariners. I thought that this was a really exciting trade for them. I think the fit is absolutely perfect. It looks like he's been playing fairly well for them since joining the Mariners, and he's kind of had a little bit of a roller coaster season, especially compared to his previous years. But I absolutely love this move for the Mariners.
Yeah, he's a big picture of the whole season's been playing pretty poorly, but I was kind of diving into his numbers a little bit when this trade went down, and noticed that he's been hitting about 275 the last 2 months. So he's kind of getting back to his form. Obviously, he's a very, very talented player. He was former All-Star. I think it was a good move by the Mariners, kind of, we'll call it buying low on his value. And one cool part of this too that I noticed, I don't know if you caught this, is after the trade went down, He actually hung out at Tropicana Field where the Rays play, watched a few innings with some fans, and kind of, gave him high fives and stuff on the way out. And I think that's super cool that he did something like that. He's helped the Rays, get to the World Series and play a lot of really important baseball. So, it was cool for him to see him, turn around and do that for the fans that have supported the team, even though they don't have much support. But to be able to take it in with them and say his final goodbyes, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I did see that. I liked that a lot. And like you said, I just looked at it right now. Last 7 games, last 15 games, and last 30 games, he's hitting 333, 286, and 278. For the season, he's hitting 217. So definitely starting to hit a lot better. Last 7 games kind of gives you a glimpse of how he's been with the Mariners. 333, not too bad. So nice trade for them.
I will say this too. Now, during this time the White Sox were playing the Mariners, and the Mariners made about 2 or 3 trades, and I joked, but I don't know. I think I was onto something that I said the Mariners are really loading up to beat the White Sox.
They saved the clubhouse exchange for the Paul DeYoung trade, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. I thought it would have been that series, but I was wrong about that. Which I was trying to think from our last episode, and I could look at the notes, and they're right there, but I'm not going to do that. I think you might have been the only person to get a trade right. I think you had Eric Fetty going to the Cardinals.
I'll double check it right now while you summarize some other trades.
Okay, so I was like, wow, I whiffed, and we'll get into Eric Fetty and stuff later on because that's part of the White Sox trade. But
no, I got it wrong. I had him going to the Padres. We got Garrett Crochet wasn't traded. Luis Robert wasn't traded. Fetty, you had the Guardians. I had the Padres. Kopech, we both had the Yankees. Pham, you had the Phillies. I had the Mariners. Flexen wasn't traded. And DeYoung, you had the Mariners. I had the Brewers. So we went 0 for, what is that, 10, 8?
Enough.
8. Yeah.
Enough. Anyways, if our loyal listeners who keep sticking it out through all these horrible takes, thank you. On to the next trade. Trade I personally thought was really interesting and not something that we see on an average trade deadline. 2 big contenders making a deal. My World Series prediction, we had the Orioles getting Sir Anthony Dominguez and Christian Pache from the Phillies for outfielder Austin Hayes. Now, I thought this was a good trade for Philly. Austin Hayes was a previously kind of highly touted prospect who hasn't really been able to find consistent playing time in Baltimore. Baltimore system's deep. They got a lot of good outfielders. Hayes was kind of the one that got pushed out eventually, and I like that move for the Phillies, taking a chance on him. So I thought that was an interesting trade. Christian Pache, he was a very highly touted prospect back in the day, and he has not panned out at all. He is very, very good defensively. That's about all he'll give you now. And honestly, I don't know much about Sir Anthony Dominguez. But I thought this was an interesting trade just from these 2 contending teams. And I thought if I had to pick a winner there, I'd probably go with Philly.
Yeah, a little bit of a smaller move there, but yeah, it looks like Austin Hayes is starting to hit pretty decent here. He has 3 hits over the last 2 games, so could be a valuable move for them.
And keeping it with the Orioles, I'm just kind of, for all those listening, just kind of going through some of the trades here. I just got a list. I'm just, looking at them, having a good time, breaking them down. So next trade, sticking with the Orioles, we're looking at starting pitching, and they attacked that by getting Zach Eflin from the Rays in exchange for infielder Mac Horvath, right-handed pitcher Jackson Baumeister, and outfielder Matthew Etzel. Thoughts for me on this one, and just kind of ties into maybe overall thoughts for Baltimore. Starting pitching seemed like a pretty big need for them. If I were an Orioles fan, I wouldn't be super thrilled with who they got. Since we're talking about them, we'll just knock it off. The other pitcher they acquired was Trevor Rogers, who they gave up Connor Norby and
nice
Stowers. I forget Stowers' first name, but 2 of their bigger prospects for a guy in Trevor Rogers who just hasn't really been that good for a few years. Guy that's getting about a 4.5, 4.6 ERA roughly the last few years. And for Baltimore, you're not just looking to win the division, you're looking to win the World Series. Zach Eflin will do pretty well for them, but I was kind of thinking they were going to really get a Crochet or a Flaherty or someone that could really put him over the hump there, and a stud that they could pair with Corbin Burns for the rest of the year. So sure, they made moves and they addressed what they had to from a starting pitching standpoint, but for me personally, I wasn't like super thrilled about it looking at it from an Orioles fan's perspective.
Yeah, I think so too. Their approach kind of reminds me of like a lot of the White Sox when they were quote unquote contending and like in second place of their division. It's like, oh, we don't want to go get one of the top names in the outfield, so instead we're going to go get Alex Rios. You know, it feels like kind of like that type of trade deadline for them. Now, who knows? I think being a baseball fan in general, but mostly being a White Sox fan, it'll be interesting to see how they develop Zach Eflin. Now, he's been in the league for long enough, but you just never know with different pitching staff and different coaches and approaches and techniques how it can change their approach. But who knows? Maybe they saw something in him that they feel like they can help. Because right now he's got over a 4.8 ERA. His ERA is at 4.11, so we'll see. I think that this is more of a wait and see type of trade deadline approach by the Orioles.
Yep. Another big one here. So far, probably the most rewarding trade, minus Christopher Morel, is the Yankees got infielder/outfielder Jazz Chisholm from the Marlins for infield prospect Jared Cerna, catcher Agustin Ramirez, and shortstop Abraham Ramirez. I'm not the biggest fan of Jazz Chisholm personally. He's a pretty good player. I just think he's maybe a little overhyped, maybe a little overrated, but he's done some damage since he's come to New York. They had him playing outfield. They got him playing third base for the first time in his career, so we're kind of getting a glimpse that they might use him in multiple positions, and I think he's hit 3 home runs with them since he's been traded. 4. I couldn't remember. I know he's hit 4 in the last 24 hours, but I couldn't remember if one of those came when he was with the Marlins. So, yeah, that is paying off big time. And if he keeps swinging it like that, then that package that they gave up for him might be pretty good. But I know a lot of prospect followers like this Agustin Ramirez guy, another power bat adding to the Marlins farm there. So I know people are pretty high up on him as well. But yeah, just an interesting trade. What were your thoughts on that one?
I really liked this for the Yankees. Now, yeah, Jazz Chisholm has been a little bit of a roller coaster this year, very similar to Randy Arozarena. But I think it was worth them taking a flyer on. Now, I'm going to correct myself here. So I guess Yankees and Phillies already played today, but his first 2 games against the Phillies, he hit 2 home runs in each game. So he's been playing pretty well. He's 1 for 4 today, so he doesn't have a hitless game yet. I think it's a great flyer move by them. He seems to be enjoying the swagger of New York, so why the hell not? I'm all for it.
Yeah, he'll fit in there. They got a lot of personalities in that locker room, so he'll fit right in. Next trade here, Phillies make one of the bigger bullpen moves early on, and they traded for reliever Carlos Estevez from the Angels for 2 pitching prospects, Samuel Aldeguerri and George Klassen. Klassen's a pretty high prospect for the Phillies, who's got a pretty good farm system, so I feel like he's maybe the headliner there, even though Aldeguerri's ranked ahead of him, but they get a 31-year-old closer who has a 2.38 ERA and 20 saves for the Angels. That's probably how many wins they have this year.
Same.
So, yeah, I shouldn't really make those jokes, but Yeah, so Phillies strike for a pretty reliable bullpen arm. He is a free agent after this year, so rental. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty good move for them. They obviously are planning on going deep once again, so having a good bullpen that you can rely on is going to be pretty important for them, and they attacked it.
Okay, so Carlos Estevez is kind of an interesting story. He's 31 years old. His career has been a lot of back and forth, rough seasons, successful seasons. He has 1, 2, 3, almost 4 seasons with like a 5 ERA or higher. One of them at a 7.5 ERA, and then he's got 1, 2, 3 seasons with a 3 ERA, and this year with a 2. So he's kind of been all over the board. It seems like for him, it's just like the right place, the right time, right staff, right coaches working with him, and maybe that's why he found success with the Angels. And I mean, it's always nice. Well, I can imagine. I have never played a day in Major League Baseball, but I can imagine it's a nice feeling when a contender wants to come get you. So I'm sure he probably feels good about that. You just have to hope that he can continue to pitch at a high level when the pressure is way higher than Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Yep. And Philadelphia Phillies fans and just Philadelphia fans in general are brutal. So better be able to handle that pressure and take a little bit of heat from them too.
Yep.
Keeping up with the theme of bullpen arms, another big move here. Padres acquired right-handed pitcher Jason Adam from the Rays for 3 prospects. Dylan Lesko, he's a pitcher, Homer Bush Jr., and J.D. Gonzalez. Jason Adam is controllable through 2026. He has a 2.30 ERA with 24 saves and 194 strikeouts in 164 innings over 3 seasons with Tampa Bay. I'm not going to lie to you. I have never heard this guy's name before, and I was surprised at what he got back in this trade. But apparently he's put together a couple good years, and this was the first move during this trade deadline where I was kind of like, whoa, he got a pretty big return. Lesko's, in my opinion, the headliner there. Padres are never afraid to part with prospects, and seems like they're doing it here by just getting their bullpen beefy, and they didn't stop there. We'll talk about that one later on, but
yeah,
your thoughts here.
He's another interesting case. So he's 32 years old. He's been in the league for 7 years. Only had 2 rough seasons. One was with the Cubs, 5.9 ERA, and then his first year in the majors with Kansas City as 6.12 ERA. Other than that, he's put together some really nice years: 2.91, 3.29, 1.56 his first year with Tampa Bay, 2.98, 2.49, and then this year he's at this is the 2.49 year. So, me and Sean always joke when you go to Tampa Bay, especially as a pitcher, they always manage to find something to tweak to turn you into a really valuable either reliever or starter. It seems like that was definitely the case for him, because when he was on the Cubs in 21, his ERA was a 5.91. The next year, he's a 1.56. Like, what? That's insane. So I'm happy for him. I've never heard of him either, but it's kind of cool to learn about new stories. And I mean, he's been really impressive now for 3 or 4 years. So good for him.
Next move I got here is I mentioned before this. I liked what the Royals did. This was one move of theirs, probably maybe my favorite move that they did. They acquired right-handed starting pitcher Michael Lorenzen from the Rangers for left-handed pitching prospect Walter Pennington. Royals, their pitching their starting rotation's been really good this year, and they add a guy who I believe is just under control for this year. And he was pitching in Texas. He had a 3.81 ERA, 101 2/3 innings with the Rangers. And Lorenzen's not a big name by any means, but he's been a very, very respectable starting pitcher for a few years now. And this is a guy I think that the Royals probably let him run the rest of this year in their rotation, and then they look at signing him maybe to a 1 or 2 or a 3-year deal and try to make him a piece of what they're trying to build moving forward. And he's assuming that, their rotation keeps going the way it is with Cole Reagans and Seth Lugo. Lorenzen would be great for like that 3, 4, 5 spot for him. And Brady Singer too. So you're looking at Lorenzen at probably like a 4th starter.
Yeah.
And I think that would just be a really, really, really good spot for him if it ends up working out that way. But regardless, good addition for them for the rest of the season.
Especially because a lot of their starters are young too, so it's nice to add somebody who's a veteran in the clubhouse. Welcome back to the AL Central. He pitched for the Tigers in 2023 with 3.58 ERA. So
was he an All-Star that year?
Welcome back to the AL Central. I will have to double check that, but I think he's a really, really nice piece for them. I was pretty big on Michael Lorenzen this offseason.
You're his biggest fan. Don't sell yourself
I like
short.
him, man. I like him, man. I think he's got good stuff. I think he's got pretty good command, but I think that this was a really nice trade for the Royals. Like you said, especially if they can extend him for a couple years, I think that this would be a great trade for them.
He was an all-star that year with Detroit. I was like, okay. I thought he did really well there, but I wasn't 100% sure. But yeah, that's probably my favorite move from the Royals, and overall I liked mostly everything they did. Another interesting trade here. Red Sox acquire right-handed pitcher Quinn Priester from the Pirates for infielder Nick York. Quinn Priester, probably pronouncing it wrong, local Illinois kid, was a pretty big pitching prospect for the Pirates. He just broke into the big leagues, I want to say last year, and has kind of been struggling a little bit. Type of guy where verdict's not completely out on him yet, but it seemed like his role in Pittsburgh was diminishing, especially when you got guys like Paul Skeens coming in, and they're likely to, maybe spend to start building out that rotation. Another team, it's looking like they're probably going to try to contend here soon. So send him over to the Red Sox. I think he will have a bigger role there. Fresh start, maybe will do good things for him. Maybe it won't, and he's just not going to pan out. But Boston paid a decent price for him. Nick York's a pretty big prospect for them. According to MLB Pipeline, he is ranked as their 6th prospect, and he's been in AAA where he's hitting .310 in 38 games since he was promoted from AA in June. So kind of an interesting trade. You got a former promising prospect versus a pretty interesting prospect. So, and a 1-for-1, which I thought was interesting too.
Yep. I don't really have much to add here. Other than the fact that he was a first round selection in 2019, picked 18th overall. So when Sean says highly touted previously, that's what he means. Top 20 pick in for the first round. Usually you expect more than a higher than 5 ERA out of them. But he's still young. He's only been in the majors now. This is his 2nd year, so maybe it's just going to take him a little bit longer.
That'll happen. Switching over to offensive here, Cleveland Guardians made their biggest move of the deadline when they acquired Lane Thomas, outfielder from the Nationals, for left-handed pitching prospect Alex Clemmie, shortstop Rafael Ramirez Jr., and third baseman Jose Tena. Lane Thomas was a all-star last year, I believe. Cleveland has needed a right-handed bat, so they found theirs. I believe last year Thomas had about 28 home runs as part of his all-star campaign, and he's dropped down to 8 home runs this year. Speedy outfielder, pretty good fielder from what I understand. Not 100% certain on that. He's got a little bit of control here. He's under control through 2025. Good move for Cleveland in terms of filling a hole that they needed. I'm not super high on Lane Thomas, but maybe Cleveland sees something in them where they feel like, or see something in him where they feel like they can help revert him back to that all-star form that he was. But nonetheless, still a move that needed to be made for them. And this is just my kind of general thoughts on Cleveland's deadline, is I maybe thought they could have done more. But yeah, so this Lane Thomas was kind of their big move. What are your thoughts on that?
Dude, this is such a Cleveland move. They're going to take a guy like this and just turn him into a stud. Do you know when the trade went down?
July 29th.
July 29th. Okay, so he's only played 1 game for the Guardians, but he was on a little bit of a heater. I mean, He went 1 for 4 on the 26th, 1 for 4 on the 27th, 2 for 4 on the 28th, 1 for 4 on the 30th. So, who knows, man? I just know Cleveland has a good track record of getting the most out of flyer guys like this. I mean, typically it's more so on the pitching side of things, but, you're not giving up a whole field of prospects for a guy like Lane Thomas. So I think it's a fine move for them.
He went 1 for 4 today.
Okay, so he hasn't gone hitless, which, when you're a White Sox fan, that's decent, but most other teams probably expect multiple hit
Actually,
games.
no, my apologies. That was yesterday. Let's see what he did today. I think they
might not have played today.
They probably didn't.
Yeah, I don't think they did because usually it was up to date here. But
nope, yeah, and most teams that did play today, they played during the day for whatever reason.
Yeah. So, is that everything you wanted to summarize as far as the trade deadline goes?
Hang on here. Let me just take a look.
Oh, Jack Flaherty.
That is one. Yeah. I mean, yeah. A lot of this, yeah. Trevor Rogers, we already talked about.
Cubs acquired Nate Pearson from the Blue Jays in exchange for Yohendrick Pinango and Josh Rivera. Not really a big trade there.
Josh Rivera, biggest prospect ever. Whoever gets the Blue Jays are gonna love having him. He's gonna be the greatest shortstop they've ever had. Yeah, he is.
Of course he is.
No, there was one other one I wanted to talk in addition to that. Let me find it here.
Sean doesn't stay ready, guys.
I was born ready.
Clearly.
You got me rushing. I was just trying to take my time and have some fun with this, but apparently I can't do that. No. Tanner Scott goes to the Padres, but where are you? Here it is. So the Padres, again, bolstering that bullpen. They get probably the most coveted reliever on the market in Tanner Scott for Brian Hoeing. From the Marlins for left-handed pitcher Robbie Snelling, right-handed pitcher Adam Mazur, infielder Graham Pauley, and infielder Jay Bashirs. Robbie Snelling is a highly touted pitching prospect for the Padres. Adam Mazur is a guy that's come up to the big leagues and done pretty well so far this year. Graham Pauley's a Swiss Army knife that's played a lot of positions defensively for the Padres at the big league level this year. And then Jay Bashirs, I don't know much about him. Just a really interesting move by the Padres. I don't quite understand what they're doing, but they're doing it.
They don't either.
They're doing it. It's like they always kind of like they're always aggressive. They always make moves, but sometimes they don't always make sense. And this is one to me where I'm like, if you were willing to give up like those guys, maybe you should have tried to do something other than having like a sweet bullpen. Because let me tell you, brother, the White Sox have had sweet bullpens for many years. Look where it's gotten us. We're on a historic season right now.
Yeah, you could have had Garrett Crochet. So here's something that's really crazy about Tanner Scott. His ERA this season's a 1.18, which is just insane. The last 30 games, his ERA is a 0.55, which means his ERA is dropping right now, which is absolutely crazy when your ERA is already only a 1.18. So, I mean, I think he was going to be valuable to pretty much any organization that's looking to make a playoff run, but Padres would be one of the more confusing teams to acquire a guy like Tanner Scott. So I guess we'll see what the hell they get out of him and really what the point of that was. But the final trade for us is Jack Flaherty. He went to the Dodgers for Tyron Lorenzo and Trey Sweeney. So he was one of the bigger names that was being floated along with Garrett Crochet. And, who's the pitcher from the Tigers? The other pitcher from the Tigers.
Tariq Skubal.
Yeah, Skubal. Skubal was the other name that was being floated, and the Tigers didn't really know what the hell they wanted to do with him. So I think Flaherty was kind of a nice consolation prize to basically say, well, we don't want to trade our no doubt ace, but we'll trade you a guy like Jack Flaherty and get some prospects in return. So what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it seemed like Dodgers were primed to make a decently big move. for the starting rotation, especially when you consider they got Yamamoto who's been out, Walker Buehler who's been hurt. So their rotation clearly needs help. I thought it was kind of a light return for Flaherty. Now, here's the thing that's interesting too, is Flaherty is a rental. I believe he's on a 1-year contract, so that factors into it for sure. The interesting thing to me, Kevin, is I saw something where the Yankees were worried about his medicals.
Yeah.
So, like, yes, this is a good move, but what's going on with him? Like, is he on the verge of getting hurt, missing time? Because that would worry me as a Dodgers fan, because you're already dealing with that enough with your starting rotation. So, kind of risky to maybe pull the trigger on a trade for a guy who has medical concerns. Maybe they're overblown. We don't know. But, I mean, regardless, playing devil's advocate too, it didn't cost you an arm and a leg to have to go make that trade. And he is a local kid, so he gets to go home and pitch, which will be cool. And I think I actually saw before we were getting started to record here, he's wearing number 0. I like
that's
that.
Sick.
Yeah.
That's really sick.
Agent 0.
I think maybe that could be why the return wasn't as large as it could have been. Maybe the Dodgers basically just said, hey, we do see some stuff coming up with the health report, but who knows? I mean, we're never going to find out stuff like that. So all we can do is
you got your first assignment for Banter from the Bench podcast. You got to go out to Los Angeles and figure out what's going on.
I guess this is my last episode, guys. Sean's going to take the podcast from here. That about wraps up the MLB trade deadline. We've got another story here when we dive into the NBA. Obviously, there's not a whole lot going on right now, especially with a lot of these players in Paris for the Olympics. But there's some drama going on with NBA and TNT/Amazon. What have you read? What have you been able to find out about that story?
Yep. So I got a little article from ESPN here pulled up since they're reporting on all this stuff and involved with it. NBA signed an 11-year media rights deal with Disney, NBC, and Amazon Prime Video. This article was put out on July 24th, so it's saying back on that Wednesday, after not accepting Warner Bros. And the media rights deal were approved by the league's board of governors last week and will bring the league about $76 billion over 11 years. So that's a lot of money. Warner Brothers, which is involved with TNT, had 5 days to match a part of those deals and said it was exercising its right to do so, but its offer was not considered a true match by the NBA. That means so here's the big takeaway here. That means the 2024-25 season will be the last for NBA on TNT after a nearly 4-decade run. Though, hold that thought, not long after the signing was announced, Warner Bros. Said, we're going to take appropriate action, and we believe the NBA has to accept our offer. In a statement, Adam Silver said, the digital opportunities with Amazon align perfectly with the global interest in the NBA, and Prime Video's massive subscriber base will dramatically expand our ability to reach our fans in new and innovative ways. So basically, TNT and the NBA are kind of going back and forth here, saying, we don't want you. Oh, you didn't consider our offer. Kind of an interesting thing that's going on here. I think the big thing for NBA fans is no TNT means no Charles Barkley and NBA on TNT pregame shows and
Shaq.
Yeah, which is probably the best part of the NBA being on TNT. But just really interesting. And I guess the first initial takeaway I have is I don't know anything about how the NFL did on Amazon Prime, but they probably did okay if this is becoming a thing. So the NFL is kind of being the test dummy for trying out all these new streaming things and going on different platforms and stuff. And they're like, wow, our consumers are so stupid they will literally pay for any service to be able to watch us. And we did, and apparently it worked good enough for the NBA to try it. But no, I will say, I think NBA's viewership would not nearly be as close as the NFL because the NFL is a different beast. But looks like this is just kind of the new age we're getting to now, where we're going to get sports on very weird streaming platforms we maybe never thought before.
Yeah, and this might not be something that's long term. However, Chuck thinks that it is. So I have a quote from Charles Barkley. He says, clearly the NBA has wanted to break up with us from the beginning. I'm not sure TNT ever had a chance. TNT matched the money, but the league knows that Amazon and these tech companies are the only ones willing to pay for the rights when they double in the future. The NBA didn't want to piss them off. What I really think happened was because they brought in another partner, this was a last-ditch cash grab effort by the NBA and the players. That's why I think they signed an 11-year deal, sort of like, hey, let's get as much money as we possibly can right now. This is going to be our last bite of the apple because TNT, ABC, ESPN, they're not going to pay more money going forward. And that's why I think they're like, let's get in bed with the streaming. That's what Chuck says. Let's get in bed with the streaming because they're going to be the only people that can afford us in 11 years. That's just my honest opinion. So I think this was honestly pretty eye-opening for him to be this transparent, to basically say this is more of a long-term play because when the cost doubles down the road in 11 years, they're going to be, Amazon is going to be the only one that's going to be able to afford the NBA. So that kind of elaborates on the issue a little bit more. It's still an ongoing issue. Nothing has been settled yet. So once we get news on that, we can obviously continue to fill you guys in on. But that kind of wraps up the drama with NBA and TNT and Amazon.
More to come.
Definitely. One of my favorite events of all time, the Olympics. I've got plenty to talk about here to summarize what we've seen from the first handful of days with the Olympics in Paris. If you guys aren't tuning in, USA is already doing pretty well with the total medal count. I'll get into the totals at the end of this. But since we were just talking about the NBA, I'll dive into basketball first. So Team USA basketball today on Wednesday, July 31st, defeated South Sudan 103-86. Still didn't beat them like they should have, in all honesty. They are 2-0 going into quarterfinals play. Other teams that are also 2-0 right now are Team Canada, Team Germany, and Team France. So it seems like those four teams might be the ones to kind of lead the way going into the four quarterfinals. I was hoping Australia would play better. They're 1-1 right now, but who knows? Who knows what can happen? So Team USA basketball's next game is Saturday, August 3rd. They play against Puerto Rico at 8:15 Pacific time. So you won't see Team USA play basketball again for a couple days here. Actually, wow, quite a few days. So Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday.
They're playing on Saturday.
Yeah, they're playing Puerto Rico on Saturday. Let me see if some other undefeated teams are going head-to-head. We've got Japan and Brazil on Friday. Australia and Greece, that could be a good game. Canada and Spain, France and Germany. So some undefeated teams are going head-to-head on Friday, so those could be some fun games to watch. All right, moving on with the Olympics. Men's volleyball, this is personally one of my favorite sports in the Summer Olympics. I like volleyball. I like especially beach volleyball, I think is a lot of fun to watch. But the men's volleyball team is 2-0 after their first two pool play matches. They're led by Matt Anderson. If you're not familiar,
No, they're not.
they absolutely are.
Nope.
Led by Matt Anderson. He's a 4-time Olympian.
They're led by Chase Budinger.
No, that's you're wrong, Sean. That is beach volleyball. This is actual indoor men's volleyball.
He could play that too.
But yes, Chase Budinger is actually really good at beach volleyball. So they're 2-0 going into after their first two pool play matches. Obviously, there's quite a few games left, but definitely a team to watch. Now, this is something that I feel like at this point a lot of people have already heard, but I'll talk about it because respect is due. Women's gymnastics won a gold medal in overall artistic gymnastics, while the men's team did come home with a bronze. So women's gets back to getting a gold medal. That's obviously an event that historically we've done pretty well in. I know this was kind of like a revenge tour for them, so props to women's gymnastics for getting a gold medal.
Did I see something that they had a funny team name they called themselves?
So there's drama. Okay, so I'll get into it. There's drama going on right now because there were some issues with Simone Biles, and there was another girl, Michaela Skynes, Michaela something, her last name. I don't think she made the cut to be on the Olympic team this year. But basically what happened is the drama that's going on is she said that, to summarize it, Team USA, with the exception of Simone Biles, of course she doesn't include her in there because why would you? With the exception of Simone Biles, Team USA's gymnastics doesn't really, she called them lazy, long story short. She's like, they're not focused, they're lazy.
Says the girl tweeting from the couch.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. She's saying they're not going to be they're not going to be cut out to win gold. So after that, Simone Biles kind of clapped back a little bit, and she posted a caption on Instagram clapping back at this woman after they won gold, and the caption on the Instagram post of her and the team holding the gold medals, it says, lack of talent, lazy, Olympic champions. So nice. She kind of clapped back. And then afterwards they were asking, like, what's your team name? Like, what do you girls call yourself? And she basically said in a nice way, she goes, well, we're team fuck around and find out. And then afterwards, they were like, we call ourselves the Golden Girls. So that was kind of the drama behind the women's gymnastics. But yeah. I don't know why you'd cross Simone Biles. That's just absolutely insane. But
well, yeah. I mean, now that we're talking about Simone Biles, I think it's only fair to bring up the fact that the Chicago Bears are such a high-class organization that we let her husband go. I say we like I'm a part of it. They let her husband go to Paris to be able to watch her, which in all seriousness – it's cool that he gets to take that in and be there with her, and I'm sure obviously she appreciates it too. But now we're gonna get to have her around the squad. Anyways, off topic, back to the Olympics.
Yeah, it was Michaela Skinner was the other gymnastics girl who was clapping at Simone. But
you got to be careful with those Michaelas. They're nasty.
Telling you, man. Jonathan Owens is the Bears player who was able to travel to Paris and watch I think it's his wife actually.
Yep,
Simone,
they are married. Yep.
Perform in Paris. So kind of a cool move by the Bears. I mean, in training camp.
He was there. I seen a video of him. He was there like taking notes while she was performing. And
he had a T-shirt with her face all over it.
It had me thinking, like, what is he writing down? Like, is he grading her? Like, is he going to be like, hey, you did this, you got this time, this score. I think like, is he breaking this down for her or what? Is this his watch film exercise?
Yeah, you could have done better. But yeah, just cool to see USA back on top in the gymnastics category. Now, this is honestly perhaps the most unexpected medal win for the U.S. It took place actually right before women's gymnastics took gold. The women's rugby sevens team earned its first ever Olympic medal with an upset over Australia. They got a bronze medal. So first time women's sevens in rugby ever won a medal. Obviously, that's something you want to bring up, something you want to talk about. So props to those ladies. I saw some highlights of it. It looked pretty badass to watch women play rugby. But yeah, congrats on getting your bronze medal.
It's awesome.
Now, this is going to make our parents happy. So for those of you that don't know, Bruce and Deb are big tennis fans. I'm going to talk about men's tennis.
Oh, no. Now you're going to be the favorite.
Dude. Yeah, man.
It's not right.
I have to. So Austin Krajicek and Rajiv Ram for Team USA actually defeated Carlos Alcaraz and Rafael Nadal today, which is insane. So they took those two guys down. Alcaraz is I don't even want to say up and coming because he's been playing really.
Yeah,
he's one of the top players. He's one of the top players in the nation right now. Nadal, I don't need to tell you who Rafael Nadal is. But with that win, they actually moved on to the semifinals. They're going to face Czech Republic next. So kind of cool. That
sticking to tennis, I did also on a sour note see that Coco Gauff did lose too, which It was a pretty
Yeah.
big upset, unfortunately.
Yeah, there were some issues there with the call. She was chewing out the ref, and rightfully so. So what happened, I'm sure you'll see the video, or if you want to look it up, you can. There was a ball that was called out, and after it was called out, the ref actually changed the call to in. And so Coco was pissed because once it was called out, she basically pulled her racket back to not hit it.
Yeah.
Or to hit it out of bounds. I can't remember which one it is. And so the call was changed on her, and she wasn't happy.
Robot
Rightfully
line
so.
judges.
Yeah, honestly, man. All right, so I'll dive into other sports that we've meddled into. I won't get into every single one of these, but Team USA has also meddled in canoe slalom, BMX freestyle, cycle mountain bike, cycle road, diving, fencing, rugby sevens I did talk about, skateboarding, and swimming, which is my personal favorite event of Summer Olympics. Love swimming. Also love track. I don't know. I like the thrill of it. I think it's fun. But to talk about swimming, we're going to talk about the GOAT here for a second. For years and years and years, we worship Michael Phelps. He was one of the most decorated Olympians of all time, if not the most decorated Olympian of all time. Well, turns out we have a woman who is dominating just as much as Michael Phelps was. And if you don't watch the Olympics a lot, you may not have heard of her. If you do, you definitely know Katie Ledecky. So she won the women's 1,500 meter freestyle. So to put this in perspective, 1,500 meters, there and back in the pool is 100 meters. Do that 15 times. Insane. So she won the 1,500 meter freestyle gold today. She actually broke her own Olympic record in the process, finishing with 15 minutes, 30 seconds and 2 milliseconds. With this win, she actually now has 12 Olympic medals. 8 of those are gold. And she tied Jenny Thompson for the most medals for a female swimmer. She did say today she's hoping to come back for the 2028 Olympics. She'd be 31 at the time, so it's kind of going to be up in the air because that's pretty old for a swimmer. But Katie Ledecky, honestly, major props. You are an absolute GOAT at your sport. We've loved getting to watch you, and hopefully you'll be able to come back for the 2028 Olympics and break that record. Now, when we talk about like Olympics as a whole, I was looking at USA's Olympics, and I was looking at the total medal count to see where we stand. I actually found a story. In this year's Olympics, the USA has officially won their 3,000th medal of all time.
Nice.
3,000 medals between summer and winter. No other country has won more than 1,500 combined. So we double the next closest country, which is insane. Just goes to show how dominant the U.S.
we are than everyone.
Damn right. How dominant we are year after year. So I just thought that was kind of cool. And then the last thing I'll touch on with the Olympics, total medal count as of July 31st. All the sports are done today. Is we've got USA with 30 total medals. France is pretty close in second with 26, and China has 19. So still a little bit of a close race there, especially with you've got France 4 medals away, and they're the home country. So that's the Olympic recap, and that also recaps the national storylines. So we are about to dive into some Chicago topics. If you're Chicago people, hang on. If you just want to listen to how depressing it is to be a White Sox fan, hey, we'll welcome you for it. So let's do that. Let's start with White Sox trade deadline recap. Sean, I've been talking for quite a bit, so I'll get off my soapbox here and let you dive into some White Sox trades.
Yeah, so trade deadline. White Sox. They made a lot of trades. They didn't trade guys I think they would make. Kind of a little bit of a roller coaster of a trade deadline, in my opinion. I will say initially I was kind of annoyed, but I've kind of gotten off that feeling now and just kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm numb to the constant revolving door bullshit that the organization has, but I don't really quite feel as upset as I did before, but their big trade, they made a 3-team trade with the Cardinals and Dodgers, which was very interesting. And I say that in a kind of a weird way. We've talked before off air about trades and players and stuff, and I've told you I firmly stand against putting a lot of your eggs into one basket. And what I mean by that is like grouping a couple of your bigger trade pieces into one trade. And that's exactly what they did there. So what the White Sox did was they traded Eric Fetty and Tommy Pham to the St. Louis Cardinals. And then they also traded Michael Kopech to the Dodgers. And in return, the White Sox got Miguel Vargas, an infielder, Jarrell Perez, a infield prospect, and Alexander Albertus, an infield prospect as well, all coming from the Dodgers. Now, at first I was like, weird. I still think it's weird.
Yeah.
I can't quite understand how the St. Louis Cardinals got Eric Fetty alone plus Tommy Pham without giving the White Sox anything. Now, they did send Tommy Edman to the Dodgers, and Tommy Edman for Fetty straight up, that wouldn't even do it for me. Yeah. I don't know quite how the Cardinals made it out the way they did in that trade. Now, with that being said, too, I was thinking about it more and more, and I was like, well, you know what, actually, the Dodgers have a better farm system than the Cardinals. So if the White Sox were to get a prospect-rich package, I'm glad it came from the Dodgers at least. I'm always kind of weary about trading with them because they will just literally trade anyone. They don't care. So that kind of makes me nervous sometimes. But it seems like Miguel Vargas is the guy the White Sox were so strong on, and he's the big centerpiece coming back to us for this deal. He was previously the 37th best prospect in baseball. He's been with LA's big league club and been in AAA for the past few years. He's really struggled with finding consistent playing time there. People think that's maybe why he hasn't panned out quite as well as people had hoped, but now he has an opportunity in Chicago to play every single day. He's got 6 more years of control. He's got good bat to ball skills. He has a good approach. A lot of things the White Sox don't really do well, but also this is like the kind of guys that the White Sox have been targeting for from an offensive profile standpoint. It seems like they're really looking at like contact heavy guys, and I honestly feel like they're shying away from power hitters a little bit, but they clearly have a type and they keep going for that. In terms of the other guys, I know a lot of prospect followers are pretty big on Alexander Albertus. He's out for the rest of the year with an injury. I believe it's a foot injury, so we won't even know how he's looking until next year, which is fine. Like, it's not like he's going to come up and make a play for the team between now and next year anyways. And then Jarrell Perez was just in the futures game for the MLB, and I believe he got a hit and scored a run, so that's kind of cool. But, yep. I mean, all in all, just a weird trade, but I'll get your thoughts before I kind of keep going.
Yeah, look, I mean, we're not going to know what we get out of Jarrell Perez or Alexander Albertus for probably like 3 years, maybe 2 if they really just hit their way up to the team. But those guys are only like 17 or 18, maybe 19, so still really, really young. Miguel Vargas, man, it's a confusing one for me because he's the headliner. Right? Like if he was an additional piece thrown in, I'd be like, okay, cool, that's good value. But with him being the headliner there, it's confusing. I mean, he since he joined the Sox, he's 0 for 8 with 3 strikeouts. So not off to the best start, but you know, it's when I talk about other teams who are contending taking flyers on guys, that's exactly what the White Sox are doing with Vargas here. So I think they could have gotten more, like you said, if they broke up the trade into a couple different trades. Maybe the financials just made a lot more sense to do it this way. Who knows? I mean, Jerry's mainly only worried about money. Ironically, though, dude, not only did the Cardinals not send us anybody, but we also sent the Cardinals money
That was the hardest part of the trade.
for Jerry, 100%.
He was struggling to give his thumbs up for that part.
Yeah, I'll give you Fetty and Pham and Kopech for peanuts, but
Yeah,
the
I will say too, and like I'm not really like a White Sox organization defender. I just also feel like maybe people are a little bit too strong on their opinions of how bad this package is and what exactly Eric Fetty could get in return. People seem to forget that he literally couldn't find a spot in the MLB just a few years ago, and like now all of a sudden people think he's just gonna get a return comparable to like a Crochet or comparable to like a Scooble or someone like that. Like he could go to St. Louis and he could suck. I don't think he will because he's kind of reinvented his arsenal a little bit, but like that's not out of the cards either. So I guess like kind of looking at it from that perspective too, I do feel like people are a little bit too judgmental on exactly what we get back. And two, you bring up a good point. Like a lot of these kids are 19. We're not going to know for like 4 or 5 years really how good of a package this actually was. So people are saying that maybe Vargas, you could argue, is the best prospect that was traded during the trade deadline. It's just if he was struggling to work it out with the Dodgers organization, I don't feel confident in the White Sox to be able to randomly flip a switch. But the good thing is he has not gotten consistent time, so maybe that was a big issue, and maybe he'll end up being as good of a prospect as he was projected to be. So we'll see.
Hey, man, worst case scenario, we share the same spring training facility. He can go talk to them during spring training.
Yeah. Help me break down my swing. They don't have a hitting coach.
Exactly. And honestly, like, yeah, to talk about Fetty really quick, his portion size as a successful pitcher in the MLB is a half a season. So you were never going to get a huge haul. I will say I'm looking at MLB's last 7, last 15, and last 30 games. Man, this guy is consistent. Last 7 games, 3-1-2. Last 15, 3-3-1. Last 30, 3-11. So across the board, really consistent. And I think that's why the Cardinals liked him a lot. They also have a great track record of helping pitchers out. Not that he really needs it right now, but I mean, maybe they see something where they could take it up a notch.
Yeah. And I guess kind of like my last parting thoughts with this trade too is obviously the guy we haven't talked about yet, and that's Michael Kopech going to the Dodgers. I've always kind of been high on Kopech. I think he was dealt a tough hand in Chicago. Now, don't get me wrong, he also hasn't performed as well as he should have. But just the constant changing in roles and what he's expected to do and stuff like that, I think made it hard on him. I think he's going to be great in the Dodgers organization. I think there'll be whatever flaws he has or things that they think they can fix with him, they probably will be able to. And I hope we get a chance to see that guy play. And here's the thing that sucks too, because I don't care about the Dodgers. I hope they lose. But I would like to see him pitch in like a big October game, because I don't know about you, man, but for this whole rebuild thing and what the White Sox went through when they contended, maybe the most memorable day for me, for multiple reasons, was Michael Kopech making his debut. I don't think I've ever been that excited for a White Sox game in a very long time. Now, he also debuted on my birthday, so that was kind of cool too, and I think that factored into it. But dude, I'll never forget that day, just waiting around for 7:10 p.m. or for us when we were in Arizona at that time, 5:10 p.m., waiting to see this dude pitch. The crowd that was there that came out to support him getting his first strikeout, like that dude was, the hype he had going into his White Sox career was freaking awesome. And there is a little part of me that's sad that like this is like, granted, it is over and it has been over, but the little part of me is like, all right, the last part of that time is officially dead, you know?
Yeah, I remember that too. His major league debut was electric. It felt like a playoff game. Maybe just because we don't really have playoff games anymore, but He was a highly touted prospect, highly ranked.
He was the
prospect,
man.
So, yeah. So I hope he turns it around, and I hope he turns it around quick because he's already 28. So if he wants another contract and a decent contract, he's going to have to turn it around quick here. So I hope he does. I want him to be successful. He was always good to our teammates, the media, never really a clubhouse cancer. So I hope he finds success with the Dodgers. Moving to the next one, Paul DeJong went to the Royals for Gerald Rosado. I always said I thought Paul DeJong was going to go to kind of like an under-the-radar team because that's another big reason why he found success with the White Sox. He didn't feel that much pressure. He could just go out there, hit bombs, led the team in home runs. Going to a team like the Royals, who, yes, is in the playoff hunt, but it's still the Royals, I think is a great fit for him. Now, there's question marks, of course, with positional, with him maybe being blocked at shortstop, but he's a guy that can play third base. No, he is blocked at
shortstop.
Well,
there's no denying that.
Bobby Witt's at shortstop, for those of you that don't know, but I think that it's more than reasonable for him to play third base and continue to get consistent bats. And worst case scenario, he can be a DH too. So I like the move. What do you think?
Yeah, they got something for him. I think that's a win. I think he was the type of guy that they signed because they needed to fill that spot with Tim Anderson being gone. And when I say they, I mean the White Sox need to fill that spot at short with Tim Anderson being gone. And I think they also signed him with the intent of, hey, maybe we can flip this guy at the deadline and get something for him. They got a reliever they're taking a flyer on. You never know what that could turn into, but hey, he led the team in home runs, so I think his White Sox tenure probably went better than most people thought it was going to. He struggled pretty mightily, I know, with the Giants. I think it was maybe the year before. So for them to be able to flip him and get something for him, I think that's a win for the White Sox, and now it's just a matter of seeing what that ends up getting. But yeah, he'll be able to probably play third base primarily for them. He can DH, and I think that he was already playing third today for him maybe. So just a guy that fortunately was able to just walk across the field and go to the opposing team's dugout and got a quick transition to the Royals, and now he'll be trying to help the team make the playoffs. So he lucked out. Good for him.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. I think it's a good place for him to be. The guy that we got for him, Gerald Rosado, he's got a 1.85 ERA. He's going to go to the Cannonballers, or may already have, in single A. The year before, though, his ERA was a 10.38. So when Sean says take a flyer, that's what we mean. So who knows? Maybe we found a diamond in the rough. Maybe this guy's rough because he is 22 in single A ball. So he's a little old for single A. So we'll see. Next trade. Sayonara. Obviously, you can't see the back of this jersey, but if you're watching this, it's an Eloy Jimenez jersey. Man, what a shit show his career was with the White Sox. He somehow managed to get traded at the deadline. I don't know how the hell the White Sox managed to do this with his injury history, but Eloy went to the Orioles along with cash for prospect Trey McGow. Don't know really a whole lot about Trey McGow. I haven't had a chance to look into him yet. I'm going to look it up right now, but I'll let you give your thoughts while I do so.
I couldn't believe they traded Eloy. I didn't think a team would take. Granted, he does have a buyout at the end of this year. That is just, I think, $3 million. Yes. Got a club option after this year for $3 million if a team decides to pick him up.
It's all team options moving forward.
And then he also has the same thing there. If the Orioles do pick him up, they would owe him $16.5 million. So that's obviously not a cheap player, especially for a team that is filled with talent and probably going to be pretty expensive if they re-sign Corbin Burns. But I was surprised. He's not really going to have consistent at-bats over there, but I guess for Baltimore, you never know what you can get. Maybe you find lightning in a bottle by bringing him over. For what it cost, it was next to nothing. For the White Sox, the fact that someone was willing to take him on and take on that contract, like, you kind of have to take that too. Just kind of really caught off guard by that one. But The White Sox also sent them cash. I know they'll pay half of that buyout if he does get bought out. And I think they got a decent bullpen arm.
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about it?
Yeah, he's going to Charlotte, and I would expect him to only be there for a little bit before he's up with the big league club.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm just looking at it right now. He is 26, so he's older again for a prospect. But he's got a 1.99 ERA right now in AAA. His highest ERA he's had in his entire time in the minors is a 3.86. So across the board, he's done really well in the minors. It makes me curious as to why it's taken so long. Maybe there's some injuries there. Don't know. I haven't looked into it yet. But to have a sub-2 ERA and the White Sox having as shitty as a bullpen as they're going to have now, I think this guy makes a lot of sense to call up and give a shot in the majors to see what he can do. So Trey McGow, I'm sure we'll probably see you pitching for the White Sox soon.
Is he a lefty or a righty? I can't remember. I think lefty.
He is a lefty. Yeah.
Yeah, I would give it a few weeks, and we'll probably be able to see him. We're kind of gearing up to where we're going to have a little bit of a youth movement coming in here now. So, hey, I'm always welcoming new faces and new arms and new bats. So, looking forward to seeing what we got for Eloy when he comes up. He'll always be tied to him. But yeah, another failed prospect. He couldn't stay healthy, and really closing the book on this core we had here.
Yeah, everybody was ready. This is kind of like a trade for the White Sox. We're like, okay, finally we can turn the page here. It's more about getting him out of our clubhouse, and apparently there was some very unpleasant vibes going on with him, and I can't remember the other player. You'll have to excuse me here. It's either Luis Robert or it's Yoan, and I think it's Yoan. There were some reports that came out yesterday that said that when they were rehabbing in Arizona, that
it was Yoan.
The staff had to just get them to do the very bare minimum, which is really sad and honestly unacceptable. No other organization would accept that type of behavior except the White Sox, but it's just a turn the page trade for sure.
Yeah, and I think now what I was getting at with, if you want to consider Robert a part of the core, that's fine. But Moncada's probably getting bought out after this year too, so we're really gonna have no one left, which is crazy. I mean, if you would have, it's 2024. If you would have asked us this 3 years ago, we would have been like, what happened?
There was a trade, Jeff Passan, or there was a tweet by Jeff Passan years ago that talked about the White Sox.
Everyone locked up. They have a to be fair, he did say this is baseball. Right, stuff could go wrong.
Oh no, it's funny because he nailed it. So he tweeted this on January 2nd of 2020, 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. Yeah, 4.5 years ago. The White Sox control these players through the following years: Robert 27, Eloy 26, Cease 25, Tim Anderson 24, Kopech 24, Giolito 23, Moncada 23, Yasmani Grandal 23, Dallas Keuchel 23, Madrigal, Vaughn, and Dunning at least 2026. And then he followed it with, the point is, if everything falls right, this has a chance to be a sustained run for the White Sox. Of course, this is baseball, so not everything's going to. But the White Sox have put themselves into a very strong position, not just for 2020, but for beyond, for well beyond. So, like he said, this is baseball, and that's what happened to the Sox. So here we are. All right, another trade. Tanner Banks going to the Phillies for William Bergolla. This is kind of interesting. He's with High A, Winston-Salem.
Small man.
5'9", 165, 19 years old. He plays second base. This season, he's hitting .295. He has a home run, 29 RBIs, 18 stolen bases, OPS of 735. So
good hit tool, minimal power. Honestly, pretty good return for Tanner Banks, who I'm pretty surprised was even at this point. But he's done well enough to earn a shot to go onto a contending team. So good for him for putting that together, and we'll see what we get for him.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, with the exception of Wolko and oh God, who's the guy that's probably going to get called up this year?
Me.
In the minors, Colson Montgomery. With the exception of those two guys, our position player prospects are kind of mediocre, if not shit. So for them to just load up on position player prospects, honestly, it's the best thing they can do right now. So I'm good with it. It's fine. Next one.
I am looking. I was just saying I'm looking on minor league baseball right now to see if any of these guys have played, and it looks like they haven't, which I'm not surprised. But anyways, Carry on.
Yeah. We've definitely got a flurry of catchers, though. That's for sure. Edgar Caro, catcher of the future. But last thing we'll talk about here, the big names weren't traded, man. Luis Robert didn't go anywhere. Garrett Crochet didn't go anywhere. A guy that we thought could be a flyer pitcher, Chris Flexen, didn't go anywhere. And I think this is what disappoints me the most about this deadline. And don't get me wrong, winter meetings, it can still happen, and it probably will. But
they traded Cease in the offseason, you know?
Yeah, it just seems like the White Sox very rarely know how to capitalize on their time. And whether their time means competing or their time means a trade deadline, it seems like they very rarely know how to capitalize on their time. And everybody knew the White Sox were open for business. We're not hiding anything. They didn't get some of the biggest deals done that they probably should have.
I can't say I'm surprised about Luis Robert just because I feel like his value isn't probably what they want nor what a team would be willing to pay. So they're kind of hoping that, hey, maybe he'll just catch fire by the end of the year. Teams will remember that, and his value will be higher come the offseason. Honestly, for Crochet, you know, I kind of pushed it off to the side when the information came out about him not wanting to pitch unless he gets an extension, and it seems like teams actually did not like that about him, and it kind of pushed teams away. It seemed like as the trade deadline week went on, his suitors got less and less, and now he's in the interesting spot where he's staying in Chicago after kind of like that back and forth between him and Chris Getz, and I'm sure they'll handle it fine publicly, but I'm curious really what that's going to look like behind closed doors for the rest of the way. But, you know, I'm just mainly upset because I said my goodbyes to him last week, and now that means nothing. But he's a guy I would fully expect to be traded this winter. And if they don't, I'm going to start thinking maybe they're going to get an extension done. But I'm guessing he'll probably just get traded this winter. He'll be like the first big move of the winter meetings or even before it.
I would be shocked if an extension happens at this point because I don't think him and Chris Getz have the best relationship right now. That was kind
maybe
of
it's not Chris Getz that gives him the extension.
Well, this is true. Honestly, I've been hearing a little bit of smoke, speaking of the Sox, that Griffol's job is seriously on the line with this 17-game skid right now.
You don't say. Wow.
Keep
losing. Oh man. That's
okay,
some news.
You joke, Sean. You joke. Every other team would have fired this fucking guy
I know.
right now.
I know. That's why I'm saying it like, oh my God. The White Sox are realizing they should have done this months ago.
This is big for the Sox.
Two 14-game losing streaks in the same season. Oh, man.
Yeah. So I hope that actually happens. But
at this rate, too, like, at this rate, who cares if we have like a month and a half left, 2 months left? Like, is it really going to make that big of a difference?
Just give AJ Pierzynski the job for 2 months and see if he wants to actually take it long term. Because that's the name that's being floated right now, along with Terry Francona.
Yeah, he shot it down, but he didn't shoot it down because he said he doesn't want the White Sox job. He shot it down because he said they have a manager.
And he shot it down because he said that they haven't had talks about it yet. So
yeah,
that to me says
And you know what?
I'm down.
You know what? I think I am too. And it's pathetic that we're at this point. And hey, maybe he ends up being a great manager, but he won't take shit from anyone. And I'm like,
no.
I think we need that.
Yeah.
Can Tommy
I'd be
Pham
down.
manage? Is he done?
Dude.
Is he done playing? Can he manage?
Just make Tommy Pham the hitting coach, put AJ in as the manager, and find something to do with Ozzy, because those three guys in the clubhouse would not take any shit. But
yeah, since we're on the topic too, Skip Schumacher's been like mocked to them pretty heavily. Yeah. I would guess it's probably we're going to be picking between Skip Schumacher and AJ Pierzynski.
give me AJ, please. But.
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
I think the move that Crochet pulled was a Bush League move. I think that was just bullshit by him and his team. Obviously, I get it. You have to protect yourself, but like at the same time,
what's your end goal here? Do you want to stay in Chicago or do you want to play meaningful baseball? Like, you know,
right? Like I don't think you want to be here long term, brother. Like as a matter of fact, I'll tell you, you don't want to be here long term, brother. Especially if you want to play meaningful games. So. Just bullshit, as you know, the comments that him and his party made this week with, we want an extension and or else we're not going to pitch in the playoffs. Just Bush League move.
The annoying part about all this too is like the Sox managed the hell out of his innings leading up to this to kind of make his case for contending teams more appealing because he doesn't have all this extra mileage on, and hey, we're keeping him under control, and now it's like all for nothing. Like. All right, what are they going to do now? Are they going to just let him pitch 3 innings every start, or are they just going to let him rip because he's not going to be playing in the postseason?
Oh, no, he's only going to start 3 or 4 more starts, and then they're going to shut him down because they need to make sure he's healthy for winter meetings. But not to mention, dude, like we could have thrown his ass in the bullpen to start the year. But no, we wanted to give him another chance. You know what I mean? Like that would have been the White Sox move, is to put him in the bullpen along with Kopech, because that's what they did to him. But I don't know. There's a lot left to be desired with the White Sox this entire year. And I hope to see a lot of changes this offseason. So that would make me happy. Now, we've got a couple things to talk about with the Bears here. A few interesting topics. We already teased the Bears versus Texans Hall of Fame game is tomorrow, Thursday. None of the starters are going to be playing, so...
No surprise.
You know, there's not a whole lot to watch, but football's back. You know, you got to be happy about that. I'm sure they'll probably talk about Devin Hester making the Hall of Fame, so that alone will make me tune in. It's my favorite Bear of all time for obvious reasons. So I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add to that, but you know, not a whole lot to talk about, at least until after the game.
It'll be fun to have football back on our TVs, and I guess for me, the only thing I'll really be keeping an eye out for is like depth guys, like who's going to be sliding into that D line, who's going to be sliding into linebacker, corner, things like that. I hope Austin Booker gets some playing time. I don't know if he's considered a starter or not, but like he's definitely one guy I'll be keeping an eye on if he plays. Tyler Scott,
offense, I think dude, he's been balling.
It seems like he's going to have quite a big role in Hard Knocks, so guessing he'll probably play. He's another guy I'll keep an eye out for. And then, just kind of seeing, hey, who's going to be our depth pieces? Who are some interesting names we can get ready for once the season rolls around and the regular season games come on. But I'll just be happy to be watching football.
I'm going to be looking pretty heavily at the offensive line because it has looked pretty rough so far in training camp. So this could be a huge opportunity for some linemen to step up, put on a good performance. Maybe they get a chance with first string and then, you know, they become a starter for us. So I'll definitely be watching that. Another piece of news dropped yesterday. Big news for Bears fans. We've got a wide receiver one. Not only now, but in the future.
For life.
DJ Moore signed a 4-year, $110 million extension. About 82.5 of that is guaranteed. I'm all for it, man. I mean, he got $30 million less than Jay Jettas. He is just such a great clubhouse guy. He's an awesome guy to have around. His production speaks for itself. He's a clear wide receiver one. He's honestly a wonderful wide receiver for even a guy like Rome Odunze to learn from. I'm thrilled. I'm really happy they extended him. Apparently, he's been talking to Keenan Allen now. Me and Sean have been trying to figure out whether the hell Keenan Allen's going to sign an extension. Apparently, I saw some stuff today that said he's going to try and get Keenan Allen to sign an extension too. So maybe that helps keep Keenan Allen around for a couple more years. But what do you think of DJ Moore? 4 years, 110.
It was good. I think it was trending towards this, and I think the Bears maybe probably did right, not only by DJ Moore giving him this money, but also from a business perspective, probably saving themselves a little bit had they waited. I think if Caleb Williams is the guy that everyone thinks he's going to be, Moore's production's obviously going to continue to increase. He had a career year with Justin Fields last year. Obviously, Caleb Williams can sling the ball a little bit better than Fields, and by a little bit, I mean a lot. So obviously you expect that production from DJ Moore to continue to rise as well. So business perspective, probably helping themselves out a little bit, but giving the guy the money he deserves for, like you're saying, more than just his on-field production. I don't know if you saw his picture of him signing the contract. He had his Bears helmet on and his visor on, which was pretty cool. But yeah, and I haven't watched it yet, but there's a video of him talking about, his initial thoughts of when he first came to the Bears to now. And it seemed like he really wasn't a fan from just what I've heard. I haven't watched all of it, granted. And it seemed like he wasn't very excited to be in the Bears originally, but he's really kind of embraced it and really been a good guy to have in your locker room. And as a result, now we're going to have him for 4 extra years. And, if this continues to go the way things are looking like they might, then we'll probably have him around for more than that. So just excited. He's youngish still. Very, very productive receiver. Knock on wood, been healthy. That's obviously a big factor, especially in a contact sport like football. So happy to have him around. I'm glad the Bears aren't just going to let him go test the market. They're like, no, man, we want you here. We're not even going to let you get outside of this organization. Like, let's keep you around. So all in all, good for both.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you some clarity on him not being that excited to come to Chicago, because I thought the same thing when I saw it, and I actually looked more into it. Whoever
sorry.
Put out, you should be. I'm defending my boy.
Investigative journalist over here.
Whoever put out that tweet definitely wanted the story to seem that way. So what happened was, when he was traded, the reason why he was like, oh, well, okay, he bought a house a week before. So he didn't know what the hell he was going to do with that house. And he talks a little bit more about that. So I don't know if it's a video that's in, or if it was just like an interview.
Yeah, I seen a video.
That's why the story was interpreted that way.
I'm interpreting it differently. My way's better.
Well, that's dumb. Hard Knocks is set to run with the Bears starting on Tuesday. Yeah, man. I'm excited. It looks like it should be good. And honestly, there's a lot of good stories for the Bears in training camp right now. So,
do you see that teaser?
Yeah. Give me your thoughts first.
I loved it. It got me pumped.
I felt the opposite. It wasn't bad, but I don't know. Maybe I just thought they played on the Bears' history a little bit too much. And obviously those are all of our good seasons. So like they kind of had to, but
I don't think like they're not going to play into it on Hard Knocks, but it's just like hey, this is a historic franchise we're covering next. Like they, for people who might not know much about the Bears, or know only recent memories of the Bears, like we have some history. Come tune in.
Yeah. And maybe they'd bring that forward in actual Hard Knocks too. So we'll see. I'm one of the few that was like, I thought it was okay. Maybe we can do some episode recaps while it's being aired. And talk about what we saw.
I'm gonna try to watch it every Tuesday, just because I know if I don't, I'll just see spoilers, even though I'm not trying to. So
yeah,
I'm gonna be trying to watch it.
Accounts.
Yeah, I'm gonna be trying to watch it live. If I can remember to, which I think I probably will, but yeah, that'd be fun to do.
Do you want to dive into some Angel Reese talk and some Chicago Sky talk to round everything out for the episode?
Yeah, dude, I would love to. That's literally the only reason I do these podcasts is Angel Reese.
Sean's been waiting for me to go into Angel Reese and WNBA.
It's been my twin that's been going this whole time. I've just been sleeping waiting for the end of it here. No, some pretty interesting news that I personally didn't hear anything about until it was announced that Angel Reese was a part of this. But Angel Reese is joining a new women's basketball league called Unrivaled, which will tip off in January, so it won't interfere with the WNBA season. What is Unrivaled, you might ask? Well, I'm happy to tell you. It is a 3-on-3 basketball game that's on a compressed full court. So 3-on-3 compressed full court league. And the cool thing about it is going to feature the highest average salary in women's sports history. So the women are getting paid. It's kind of fun. Angel Reese is the 10th member to join this league that eventually plans on getting 30 members. Other members who have joined this league include Brianna Stewart, Kelsey Plum, Nafisha Collier, Chelsea Gray, Kalia Copper, former Sky Great, and more. So, I thought it was kind of interesting. I think we're kind of... My initial reaction to this is Ice Cube was pretty smart in terms of running with the big three in this 3-on-3 basketball thing that he's been doing, because now we're seeing other people take that idea and use it to be able to put out a good product for people. So really interesting, and I think it's great that they're going to pay him a lot. Hopefully just trying to continue to grow the sport. So never a bad thing about that, and making more money is always a good thing too. So what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for them to not only make more money, but to market themselves, to continue to market themselves and make more money through that as well. I guess I was just looking up what a compressed court even means, and it's literally just like the 3-point lines are closer to the half court. So
I was gonna guess like not quite full court.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. But yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for them to obviously continue to get their names out there, just continue to play ball. There's some really impressive names as far as like some of the bigger names in the WNBA that are competing in this. So good job for the ladies. Go make your money and earn more marketing opportunities.
And sticking with WNBA, the Chicago Sky announced something pretty big. They are set to build a state-of-the-art practice facility that will be ready for the 2026 season. Now you might think, practice facility, it's whatever. For the WNBA, actually, there are not many teams that have standalone practice facilities, which is what the Sky are building. The only one I know recently that built one was the Las Vegas Aces, and there were plenty of like NBA players that went in there and said like, hey, this rivals like what we have. So now the Sky are the next team to take that step. It's going to be a $38 million project located in Bedford Park. The facility will have 2 WNBA-sized courts, first-class amenities, private facilities for the players, player lounges, high-tech film rooms, advanced training rooms. They're going to have a private chef's kitchen. They're going to have a content creation studio where I can go get my WNBA podcast up and going and fire off my WNBA takes. They're going to have a beauty bar so I can also get my hair cut while I'm there, and more. So just really cool opportunity here. And man, this paired with the United Center news the other week and obviously the whole Bears new stadium thing. Chicago's getting an overhaul on their athletic facilities.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks really cool. I've never tried to share my screen here, so
oh boy, everyone close your eyes before he closes out his tabs. You never know what he's looking up over there.
We're gonna try and see if we can make this work. But here we go. Chicago Sky practice facility. So
look at that.
These are some of the renderings that are going around right now. This looks really cool. I saw like a nighttime picture of what it would look like. It looks really sweet. And then you get to see kind of like the more of the front entrance. So it looks like it could be a really, really cool facility for these ladies. And honestly, They deserve it. They've earned it. They should have had a facility this whole time, because I mean it's only fair that they get their own practice facilities and chefs and you know top of the line ability to have everything in one building like NBA players do and MLB players do. So props to the Chicago Sky ownership for getting this done. I'm sure it was funded, but the fact that they're even willing to do it, I applaud them and happy for the ladies of the Chicago Sky.
Yeah, it should help with recruitment efforts too, right? Like, hey, you get to go be in this facility, you get all these amenities that come with it. Like, that'll help a lot too. It seems like the Las Vegas Aces have kind of been the gold standard of the WNBA lately, and anyone would hope to be half as successful as they are. But I think the Sky doing something like this, lets everyone else in the league know like we're serious about basketball here in Chicago, and we want to build something special. And pairing that with the young core that they have together, like, hey, maybe this is the start of something really big here, and they'll start really turning the corner and attracting more and more names to come play here and enjoy those new facilities. But all in all, yeah, it's pretty awesome project they got going for them, and it'll be nice, and hopefully more teams follow suit, but not quite that fast, because then they can get better recruitment efforts too. Let us get everyone before you start building those facilities.
Yeah, I think some cities are built for it. Some may take a little bit longer. But
for those
really,
kind of who aren't aware, like I did do a little bit of research on like what practice facility situations are for a lot of these teams, and in the good majority, practices on the same court that they play on, or they have like a practice court in the stadium that they play in. So kind of to paint a little bit of a picture there. And some, they go to like community places and things like that. So just to kind of paint a picture.
Colleges too.
Yep, to
Sometimes
paint a picture of what it's like versus what it can be.
It's a game changer for them, and honestly, they deserve it. So, all right, y'all. Well, that's a wrap on episode 12. Obviously, it was a little bit of a longer one, but with deadline and Olympics updates, we had a lot to dive into. So, thanks again for tuning in. As usual, like, follow, share, comment, message us, do whatever you need to. We will be back next week with another episode. But per usual, thanks for tuning in. Take care, y'all.
Go Bears.